Hello everyone, Pulse here, and I want to thank you for joining me for yet another episode of Delving Deep ESO. Now in today's episode, we will be discussing the MegaServer system Zenimax is implementing into Elder Scrolls Online, as well as some discussion on the player social interaction and really the details on what you can expect for player-to-player sort of communication. So let's just dive right in, as we always do. It's really what I like to do with the show, get right into the meat of it all. Now to start off, let's go over what the MegaServer is. The idea of the MegaServer is that we no longer have this huge list of realms or shards or worlds or any bits of those terminology that are common for MMOs, and instead of dealing with the nonsense of picking the realm or shard you're going to go and then having to pay out of pocket if you want to switch in the future, instead of all of that, with Elder Scrolls Online, we will have the community of the game as a whole connected together under one roof, under one MegaServer. Now there are some caveats to this, some details that I will go over, but that'll be a little bit later. It's not really important right now. Now instead of choosing a specific realm as you would do with the typical MMO experience, we will instead be prompted to fill out a questionnaire of sorts when we get into the game, which will ask a multitude of different questions. We don't know the specifics, but we should expect something like this. We'll get questions based on your gameplay preferences, your time zone, your ideal play time, perhaps even your sort of play allowance. How many hours a day or per week do you usually engage in playing Elder Scrolls Online? Do you prefer PvP, PvE, RP content? Do you like a healthy mix of all of those? Do you have like these two are above the other? Really, there's supposed to be a robust system of choices here. In addition to those, I would hope to see questions based on maybe your preferred language of choice, maybe even the region, so that it has sort of help branching and putting those characters together. And it's a fairly interesting system that sounds fantastic on paper, but until I see how well the sorting system under the hood of this thing handles itself, it's hard to say if this is an actual step forward from a traditional shard or realm system of old. But like I said, it sounds like it's the logical progression of how things should work. Now it should be mentioned, I kind of mentioned this earlier actually, there are a couple caveats here, and the big one is that it's actually not a worldwide server, as some were led to believe a long time ago when the MegaServer was first announced from Zenimax. But in actuality, it's a very large region-based server for different parts of the world. So we'll have one for the US and sort of that section of the planet. We'll have one for the EU and that sort of the huge area there. I would expect two for the consoles. That's for different reasons, not so much region, but we'll at least have two, one for each of the consoles. I would expect actually the region-based one and one per console, so expect a couple from the consoles as well. And then in addition to those, I would also expect one or two more mega servers utilized for the Eastern markets whenever ESO becomes available to them. But that's really here nor there, to be honest. Now, before I move on to the social interactions in Elder Scrolls Online, I want to make a suggestion to Zenimax. Now, I want to say, please allow a flexible questionnaire system which allows you to change your gameplay preferences and really just fill out the questions as you see fit on a regular basis. People and players change, groups and parties and guilds are formed and they break all the time in MMOs. It's very common for relationships to become negative, or you get new relationships and you want to move around and change your gameplay preferences to play with different people. And if this questionnaire is a one-time thing, in my honest opinion, it's just poor choice on the dev, and it really could turn out to be as bad or maybe even worse than the separate shard or realm systems we've seen in previous MMOs. So Zenimax, if by chance, if hell is freezing over and you are listening at all, I want to suggest that you please make sure to allow players the ability to change preferences with this questionnaire system. Really allow them to make the choices they want to when it comes to who they play with, when they play, what kind of content they want to play. That's that. Now, onto the social interactions, which is really a lovely coincidence of timing, to be honest, because the Ask Us Anything was just released, I believe 2 days ago now of recording this, themed on RP and social interaction. It's fantastic. It's like I planned this thing or something. Now, the social interactions in Elder Scrolls Online, it's really what you'd expect from an MMO, with text, chat, emotes galore. There's some nice additions to the norm here, though. In the Ask Us Anything, in fact, they mention that you can create your own custom emotes, which is a nice touch for the role players out there. And it really, to me, hints that there's a possibility of getting our own create your own custom chat channels feature. That's a really useful feature for any kind of cross-guild communication or roleplay. It's very useful as well. So I hope to see that. Maybe it won't be a launch feature, but shortly after release would be fairly fantastic. Now, they've also confirmed walking, which again is a nice touch, one that you would honestly expect from a AAA MMO. But after the fiasco that was trying to get walking in Guild Wars 2, the community really bashing them hard to get it put in that game. I'm really happy to see that it's implemented here, considering the fact that some of these companies seem to be dropping the detail and that sort of thing, which really adds to the immersion factor. It's all in the detail, so I'm glad to see that it's being implemented. Now, outside of the roleplay, though, there will be a mail system, there will be face-to-face trading, friends list, guild pages, guild calendars, I imagine, just a whole slew of different things utilized here for communication, different groups, different people, that sort of thing. And all of that will be utilized with a lot of depth for both privacy and usefulness, which is all sounding well and good. And even though that's what we should expect from a AAA MMO title in this day and age, it definitely makes me sigh a bit in relief. Because, as I said, some companies seem to be dropping the details, the stuff that they would quote-unquote call little stuff. So I'm glad to see it being implemented here. Now, so far, the systems in place for the social interactions are all very sound and solid by themselves, and with the addition of the add-ons, it's really going to... The community will no doubt use these to alleviate any issues that the sort of base systems have. So all is looking good for your social interactions from player-to-player interaction. Or is it? Big question mark here. Now, I've gone over what I truly believe to be a rather safe but solid and absolutely required stable of features for an MMO to have if they want to succeed in being a proper social and interactive experience, which is a big part of the MMO selling. That's really one of the biggest selling points of an MMO. So having these features is fantastic. However, there is one massive issue. I mean, I'm probably going to get a little bit ranty here, guys, so apologies if I get a little bit loud, because this is, in my opinion, a pretty huge misstep. Why the hell can we not see enemy faction-controlled players outside of goddamn Cyrodiil? We can have cross-faction guilds, but we can't see people out in the world exploring and experiencing the game like every other MMO. I mean, it's a baffling design decision. Let me just start by reading directly from the Ask Us Everything, because I've argued this point with some people on different forums across the web, and a lot of times I get a multitude of answers that are something like this. Oh, no, you're just misunderstood. They've just maybe slurred their words, and their sort of quotes are put out of context here. Of course we're going to see other player factions. That's a duh thing, right? They're going to do that. It's fucking nonsense. I mean, here's the quote. We know we'll get cross-faction chat through guilds, but will there be anywhere that all factions can congregate and communicate, is the first question the player asks. Like, is there anywhere in-game an Ebonheart character could unfortunately share a mead with a Daggerfall character? You know, we role players enjoy the conflict and that kind of interaction. Can these characters group together if they are in the same guild as well? That's so 3 or 4 questions there for the developer, and this is what they had to say, and it's disappointing. Though we haven't implemented areas expressly for this purpose, there's nothing stopping you from sharing a peaceful, if tense, round of drinks with characters from another alliance in Cyrodiil, except for maybe their allies. Hardy har har, I'm glad you got a goddamn chuckle out of that, because that is an awful answer. But let me finish before... Oh, I'm just going to get ragey. I know it if I don't keep calm. Though you can't group together if you're from different alliances, many of our social systems are focused on you as opposed to your characters individually, and you'll be able to communicate across alliances through these systems. Now, there's one thing I want to mention first off, and I feel like it's just, actually, let me just get right into it here, because I'm going to rant if I don't stick to my plan here. This is an absolute bit of garbage for a series like Elder Scrolls Online, or Elder Scrolls rather, that prides itself on immersion and providing a real-world and believable experience in a fantasy setting. What part of this design decision is believable? I mean, it's not even logical from my point of view. And even worse than is this part here. Though you can't group together if you're from different alliances, which is a huge and major contradiction from what we've seen and heard from previous interviews and articles. So you're telling me, Zenimax, that we have all of this flexibility in the world to play how we want, who we want to play with, how we do, what content, who we interact with, but we can't see the goddamn opposing faction outside of Cyrodiil? That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It's awful, and I do mean an awful design decision by the developers on this one. I mean, I could almost forgive them if they had come out and said, and been very honest, I hate it when developers sit there and try to shroud and cover and mystify with weird usage of words and try to cover their tracks up with bullshit. If they had come along and been very honest and said, yeah, I'm sorry guys, but due to technical limitations, we can't implement this system and have the whole world open to all factions at all times, like every other MMO from 5 years ago, but we can provide social interactions across the factions with a couple of neutral areas and social hub spaces. If they had said that, I might be able to keep my inner nerd rage from emerging. But we're not getting that. We're not getting that at all. If we get it, it'll be long after release. And honestly, it's very sad. I really hope that they opt to change this, because this is my thinking here. If 99% of your playtime and 99% of the content available in the game, and obviously 99% is just a random bit of numerics pulled from my brain, but if such a huge percentage of your playtime in the world is going to be areas in which you can only see your own faction, the sense of the world and its different inhabitants are diminished severely. If I'm playing Daggerfall Covenant, for example, and all I can see in my zones, in Ebonheart Pact zones, in Aldmeri Dominion zones, hundreds and hundreds of hours of content they've said, if all I can see in all of that part of the game is the other races in my faction, if all I can see is Redguard and Orcs and other Bretons running around as a Daggerfall Covenant player, how am I supposed to really believe that this world I'm in is active and filled with the other races we intend to fight? I really don't understand it. It's a silly design choice for sure. And as I said, I really hope they change it, do something, because I realize that the mass majority of people that play MMOs do not fall under the sort of roleplay umbrella. A lot of people don't enjoy that when they come to an MMO. They like the in-game content. The problem is they're selling this game as an Elder Scrolls game and an MMO. And they've gotten a lot of praise from people who I don't think quite realize this is an MMO first. It doesn't matter what they say, it's an MMO first. And the fact of the matter is that they're selling it so sharply that they're on the fence. They keep saying that they balanced it well between the two experiences. What part of Elder Scrolls is this? Because any Elder Scrolls game and any Elder Scrolls fans that come to this game are going to want that feeling of immersion in roleplay. That's a huge selling point for the Elder Scrolls game, and it should be for the Elder Scrolls Online as well. It's silly. But really, guys, that's it. I'm done with the ranting. And before I go, though, I want to just let me know your thoughts on this sort of issue that Zenimax is limiting cross-faction sociability. I didn't mention this, but I want to say, they say you can chat across guilds, but the problem is you'll never be able to see those players and their actual characters. I just want to make that clear. They haven't said otherwise. If that was a feature, I could maybe even sort of change my view a little bit. So unless I'm missing something huge, this is my opinion on it. They really need to fix it. And in fact, if they let guilds of cross-faction guilds talk and actually see those players, maybe they would find compromise there. And maybe there's some insight I'm missing. If someone else comes along and really gives me their point of view, maybe, like I said, maybe I'm missing something here. Perhaps my opinion will change, but I'd really like to see your opinions on that. Now, anyways, guys, that's it for today's episode of Delving Deep ESO. It was a little bit shorter than the others, not by too much, but I still hope you found it informative and entertaining. Now, I'd like to say thank you guys for watching, and I really urge, and please like, subscribe, comment down below on really your feelings at all, negative, positive, anything you have to say about the content here on the channel, whatever, put it down below, let me see it. I really want to get some feedback, and really just make sure to stick to the Nova Pulse Gaming YouTube channel for everything Elder Scrolls Online. In fact, check out the playlist for Delving Deep ESO. It's got quite a lot of videos in there now, and really the whole gaming world. I'm passionate about games as a whole. So this has been Pulse, guys. I want to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.